it's time for Anchor's chat. But before then, I'd like you to know that if you need to run, to do is log on to our website, atlantictelevisionnetwork.tv, and watch us live. Or you can do well to watch us live from our app by downloading it from the App Store. Or if you already have it, just a reminder, you can watch us live on the app, which is ATN Live on the App Store. Now, the good thing is that you can also watch us live on Facebook and YouTube, and that's Atlantic Television Network. So you can catch up and be part of the conversation. Of course, if you have questions, bring it on. We are here for the 2023 Ogoni Matters Day, Friday, November 10, 2023, in remembrance of the killing of the renowned environmentalist Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 other Ogoni leaders by the military administration of late General Sani Abacha in 1995. Renewed calls for justice resonates in Rivers State. In a press briefing in Abuja, Ogonis laments that their people have continued to suffer environmental degradation, political marginalization, and economic hardship occasioned by the reckless oil exploration activities of the multinational oil companies, Shell Petroleum Development Company particularly. In the conference, which was delivered by Comrade Akwabari Celestine, team leader of the People's Advancement Center, and Reverend Probel Williams, leader of the Ogoni People's Assembly, Ogoni said their demands as outlined in the Ogoni Bill of Rights, seeking political autonomy, control of their economic resources, representation in national institutions, protection of environment, and more are still in their memory. They recalled sadly that the Nigerian government responded to their non-violent agitation with violence, leading to the atrocities such as mass arrests, unjust detention, and other atrocious activities that climaxed with the hanging of Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 other Ogoni leaders. While in addition to the exoneration of Ken Saro-Wiwa and his kith and kin, the Ogoni leaders called for the arrest and prosecution of the military officers responsible for the genocide in Ogoni during the late Abacha's regime, stressing particularly that the perpetrators of the heinous crime must be held accountable, while demanding that the families of the victims receive their fair and just compensation for their pains and losses suffered. So one of the things that they, the Ogoni Bill of Rights, their primary interest is to control their resources, to ensure that their environment is not messed with further by the oil exploration company, to be part of the process determining who does what and how it is done to ensure that their people are protected. And in all honesty, I think that this call, considering that this man and the 8 others were murdered unjustly, all for calling for their right to be respected. Now, the critical part of that conversation again is the fact that every time 10th of November comes, you see Ogoni gather around. I don't know if they had a candle night, like a few years ago, they usually have a candle night somewhere in the Port Harcourt Township. And now, a few years ago, I think 2 or 3 years ago, his only son passed on. But there's something that made me really glad recently. I didn't know he had a child. He was married, had a child. His son just graduated from a university abroad, and I sound like, oh, at least there is still someone standing.
To hold on to.
Now, having said that, that young man today lives abroad clearly, knows that this is what has happened to his grandfather. Sometimes I wonder how some of these people can look at Nigeria and want to identify themselves as Nigerians.
Exactly.
If since 1995 there hasn't been any form of justice that you can say they can relate it to, say, oh, you know, there's something about offenses. Offenses will surely come in human interaction one way or the other. But one of the things that makes offenses easy to take is when there is repentance, genuine repentance, acknowledgement that, hey, I did wrong.
Yes.
This thing I did, it was offensive to you.
Yes.
Even though I didn't understand it at the time, I just felt I had my right, or whatever reason you may be cooking up in your mind as to the reason why you did what you did. But coming to terms with the fact that there is need to have a recompense. This was wrong. Let's have a retrace from what we've done. None of these seem to really look like, oh, it's what it should be. I don't know if Nigeria at any point in time can understand that you cannot wish away, Nigerian leaders that is, you cannot wish away an evil done to a certain people. So long as it is they are in the know of what the evil you did to them, you cannot just sweep it under the rug, reason why they are still agitating. If there was some form of recompense done to those who were murdered, for their families and all that they lost and all of that. I believe that today there will be no grants for the Nnamdi Kanos of this world, the Ralph Wazirike to say, hey, we want Biafra. It is because there's an injustice, like the voice of Abel, still crying out over the injustice that has been done to them. And I don't know why people think that you can do injustice to people and it will just go because the time is running by. Look at going back to this 10th of November every year. A date has been set aside in memory to commemorate the life and time of Ken, the son Saro-Wiwa. Yet we are still talking about, the Ogonis are still talking about the Bill of Rights, the government not respecting their call for justice over the death of these men. This is how many years up and all of that. And then I was in Ogoni just sometime in October or thereabouts. And then if you look back and what we are calling cleanup, the question is, okay, forget about the Ogoni Bill of Rights. Let's even talk about the let's leave the Ogoni Bill of Rights and let's talk about the UNEP report on what the remediation process or the cleanup of Ogoni land should be. The question is, the Center of Excellence is still being built, but they're telling us that they are on remediation. Meanwhile, these are things they're supposed to put in place because that's where they're supposed to be testing the soil. If you're doing remediation, you're supposed to bring out the soil. When you get some of the soil, if you've remediated a point, you get to take it back to the Center of Excellence to test it. And then when you test it, you come back, okay, this is how much progress we've made on that, or we've been able to clean properly, which is remediating this angle, or this is what we need to do. But you're remediating, where is the what do you call now, the Center of Excellence that is still being built as we speak. Now that's on one side. Finally, they've agreed to build the Center of Excellence. Then they were talking about taking it somewhere, I think abroad or in another state to build it, that you take soil from here, you go and test from there. The Ogonis have been fighters and I respect them so much. Yeah. They may be down today, but the one thing they have vowed to themselves that they will continue to fight. Yeah. It's been long years, they are still fighting. And that is why it's as if something is seemingly to be going on in the name of cleanup right now of the Ogoni. But you see again, respecting the UNEP report, if someone would say, oh, after all, something is going on there, one would then now ask again, if you're talking about respecting the UNEP report, what about providing potable, clean water for these people? Because the level of benzene in the water as a result of the environmental degradation had happened through the oil exploration and the environmental abuse by Shell is still a major concern. Not too long ago, Osop came up to say that, hey, our people are dying. Our children are having some scars on their body that is looking like cancerous cancerous tissue that seem to be growing. You would think that by now there would have been some form of tests done. And these are conversations that has been going on for so long. If you look at some of the documentaries that's coming out of the Ogoni land, you know, people have a way of making it look like, oh, are they not the ones doing this, Gary? Are they not the ones doing this? But can you deal with the core issues? I'm saying that, well, you could give kudos to the government of President Mohamed Buhari for at least making the effort to even initiate the cleanup process. And of course, the process is still going on right now. But what we are saying is, a part of that conversation was also to ensure that, to stop the young people in Ogonis, for instance, to continue to degrade the environment by doing what we call fire or illegal bunkering, by providing them with artisanal refineries. That was part of the conversation, which is, I don't think anything is going on with that. So I totally understand why these people would decide that they will keep making this demand for the liberation of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the other 8 Ogonis who were murdered in the course of the pursuit of justice for their people. Please, do you even think that there will be a time when we can say, oh, there will be progress? There will be some form of respite for what these people have had to go through. There will be some form of genuineness to ensure that what should be done is being done, at least even following the UNEP report in restoring the environment. But most importantly for me, I think that there should be more demand beyond the 10th of November every year. Absolutely. To call for not just the government of Nigeria to officially admit that these people were killed for no reason. I think that there should be more demand, not just when 10th of November, like I said. There should be more consistency in this call until justice is done, so that children tomorrow can say, oh, the government of Nigeria, particularly, like I said, my father who had to go through this matter. But again, how will this happen? Can we see other people joining their voices to this call of Kensari West Liberation, like the comrade that Celestine Akpobari is doing right now with Mr. Probel Williams is doing right now, to say this has to be done. And I hope that all of them, you know, at some point or the other, that this gets to be done. But most importantly, Ogonis, you have our respect from this platform and beyond. You have our respect for what you have gone through, for what you're going through, and for the tenacity with which you continue to fight. You have our respect, and most importantly, may the souls of those who departed continue to rest in peace. If there's anything to go by, like, I don't know how possible that is, but we hope they rest in peace.
Yeah, you always have a way of covering all the corners.
I don't think so.
and leaving everybody speechless. So you've done that again.
Speechless, don't be.
You've done that again, but be that as may, I still just want to say one or two things about this. You know, my concern really is how he was murdered, and the fact that there is this kind of intimidation that actually was left in the minds and in the hearts of people after his murder. This is one mobilizer. To me, I see him as a community mobilizer, you know, that really beats beyond my imagination. I've not seen his kind ever before, though you have the likes of Asari and, you know, the rest of them still fighting, you know, somehow similar to what he was fighting for. So, you know, like from August in 1990, when the bill of the Ogoni elders actually gathered and put down the bill of their rights, you know, and it was a political order, you know, political right. It was to give them the political right towards having the Ogoni people, you know, particularly the Ogoni people, to actually have rights towards their resources and their economic you know, autonomy and all of that, you know, and I didn't see anything wrong with that. I didn't see anything wrong with this, you know, and what really did this man do to have been murdered the way he was murdered? It's something that really calls for answers, and I just want to believe that justice really have been given to the Ogonis on this, because it will forever remain sempiternal in their hearts. It will forever remain sempiternal in the sands of time. What King Beson Sarawuwa did with the 8 of them, because he made them, you know, 9. So it's really a memorable day, like you said. From this platform, our respect goes to all the Ogonis. We stand with you in the struggle of freedom, the struggle of rights to, you know, resources and all of that. And I believe that Nigeria will continue to honor and respect and do the needful for the Ogonis.
Absolutely. And now we'll take a short break, everyone. When we come back, that's been Anchor's Chat, by the way. Remember, you can always watch us live from anywhere you are. Once again, all you need to do, you can log on to our website, AtlanticTelevisionNetwork.tv, or you can watch us live through our app, ATN Live. Get that from the App Store if you don't have that already. And you can also go ahead to ensure that you watch us if you don't want to do all of that. Facebook and YouTube, we are Atlantic Television Network, and we'll be streamed live right now, and you can do well to watch us. We'll take a short break and we'll come back to you after the break. We'll have a lot of conversation about November 11 polls, and of course, the army is vowing injurious consequences against attempts to disrupt elections. Come back to you after the break on that.
Today, our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
to ATN blowout. Now, let's begin with the issues and the news today. Start off with the November 11 polls, of course. Nigerian Military High Command declares that Troops deployed for governorship election in Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State will inflict injuries on anybody that attempts to disrupt the elections. In an address with journalists at Defense Headquarters Abuja, the Director of Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, said, for the off-season elections in Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi states this weekend, there is a message for those who plan to disrupt the process. Stay away from the November 11 governorship elections in Kogimo and Bayelsa states or face injurious consequences from the military. We are aware of your plans to dress in military gear to mislead the public. Be assured of injurious consequences should you proceed with those plans. We will not allow our image to be dragged to the mud. You are warned. Buba said, troops and platforms were being moved to locations to reinforce security already in place in those states, adding that security agencies were ready to identify and differentiate between real soldiers and fake ones. He further said, accordingly, we are targeting their leadership, infrastructure, and foot soldiers. The coordination between air and ground forces is like never seen before and yielding amazing results. We are expecting new platforms that would further enhance our capabilities to further root out terrorists and destroy their military capabilities. It's okay. To whom it may concern. The Nigerian military is coming for you. Don't say you were not warned.
Exactly.
When the military says injurious consequences, you better believe there will be injurious consequences.
Yeah.
There was this experience I had one time.
With the military?
Not directly, like I witnessed it.
Okay.
So I have a friend who is a naval officer, and let me just leave his name totally
Sure,
out.
sure.
So I was in Lagos at the time. So I went to visit him.
Okay.
I was discussing admission into their primary or secondary school for some relatives. I went to see him to discuss. I was in his office. So there's this, these things they always say, public transport drivers should be careful. They should mind how they drive and all of that.
I bet I know where you're going to.
So every time they're always warning these guys. And if you're in Lagos, I think it's in my 12 before Okoko.
Okay.
Where you have the naval, I think it's my 2 or my, I can't remember it now, but just before, as if you're going to Badagry, where they have the naval base. So you will always see the naval officers, controlling traffic, ensuring that things are moving. But you still see these guys who will not use their head. So one of those fateful days, they caught this guy. Particularly, I think he's been a regular offender or something. So I was in his office, was seated when then I came to, these are Sean's, all those stuff they do, greetings and all of that. So, okay. And he said, you again? You know what to do. That was all he said. I didn't, funny enough, I didn't know what was going on, what it means you know what to do. I later learned that they opened the pits, the sockaway pits, dumped the guy in there, like head down. Held him there. They will, after that, not to kill him, they will bring him out with some beatings. When I heard what happened to this guy, when he came out, he was telling people, and somehow
He'll be a good testifier.
when I learned that around that area, these guys, they didn't need any warning anymore. So everybody just files up and drives properly.
When you want to hear once, you involve the military.
The military is one profession I always admired.
Admired?
Yeah, for the guys, yeah. I like, no, the average military person is disciplined.
You say admired, like, are you still admiring them?
Yes, I do. There are core even in the police, for like I say, I've met core professionals.
You always say that.
And this is one thing that maybe still leaves some faith in my mind when it comes to Nigeria, okay?
Okay.
I've also met some horrible ones.
Okay, so, but you said sometimes that you would
Who
like
don't
to
just
sleep and wake up
disrespect-
somewhere else, not in Nigeria.
Yes, I know. When it gets bad, when my head is filled like that, yeah, we won't talk about. But this particular, and I'm saying this for those who would want to dare.
Okay.
Because some persons feel like because they have a political godfather. Listen, let me speak pidgin English. You go die. your political godfather will still become whatever he wants, whether he's going to win or lose. Your history will come to an end.
That's true.
Nothing will happen. So for the Bayelsa, Imo, and Kogi elections, don't say you were not warned. I know how I've always had this feeling like, oh, this is too harsh. We're having it's an election, it's a civic responsibility. What does it sound like we're going to war? But this is not the first time they are coming with this warning that they have a reliable information that people, and they do this a lot. The way military gap, the camouflage, presenting themselves as military personnel. And at the end of the day, we, the media, because sometimes we not even have the time to investigate properly to know if he's actually police officer. Again, even the police officer, you could think, okay, you saw police officers carrying this during the elections, doing this. How are we even sure that they are the real police officers? If this information is anything to go by, so don't say you were not warned. If you're caught, we'll sit down here and discuss your matter. We'll see that day.
Okay.
Blowout will still happen.
Yeah, that should be a good blowout, discussion if it
Yes,
happens. Okay.
because see, I'm not going to feel pity for anybody. You know that kind of, they will say somebody was killed during the election. Don't say you were not warned. All I pray
You're
is that
already
the
doing this one
innocent.
extremely, beyond their own. It's like you're doing it more for
See,
free for
when
them.
I say with the military, you see, remember I keep saying that's what brought me to tears about a week or thereabouts ago after the Supreme Court judgment, and people were sharing how can the Supreme Court see all that happened. There was a lady that was stabbed on her eye, on the face, I think, and now they even tried to took her away. She had blood all over her, and then they took her away, tried to maybe treat a bit, cover it up.
Yeah.
While she came back to the blood was still flowing, she still came back to court. That is an innocent person who don't deserve that. But someone somewhere felt too powerful and felt they could do anything and harmed that young woman. A lot of persons died. Toyeko's campaign manager somewhere in Ahoda East was murdered. They came, hijacked the guy, took him out. It was so terrible. Like, if you see images of this guy's body, like, I don't know how to put this, but for those who feel like they are out to serve the purpose of their political godfathers, I pray and hope that the military will catch up with them so that no innocent person will be caught off guard in the midst of the fight. That's just what it is. So don't say you were not warned. They are coming for you.
Yeah, when you were talking, I actually definitely knew where you were going to, because in secondary school days in our nature, the driver, he is related to the owner of the school, but the driver, the official driver that was employed to do the work wasn't available. So he took the bus that day and kind of drove the wrong lane, at Onitsha then. That was my first experience of seeing the military actually do things that made me question if these people were actually human beings, So the guy, this is someone that actually deals with students in the school. But that day, I saw a senior staff, being dealt like a frog. He actually did frog jump to the moment where he almost looked like a frog himself. So and they don't have mercy because they expect you to do the right thing. That's why they say that ignorance is not an excuse when you actually go against the law. So it's a warning whether you are aware or not. The point is the election is just tomorrow. You know the right things to do. You don't need anybody to tell you to stay away from being a thug or doing thuggery in the course of this election. Just go, vote, and stay clear. Wait for your votes to be counted, and you go home. Don't involve yourself, into being the hitman, so to say. And at the end of the day, just like my colleague said, the people, the politicians, so to say, that you're doing these things for might not even have any look back. It will really cause them to bat an eyelid, on this, because they might not even like to identify themselves, with you. So it's high time we actually, told ourselves the truth and do the right things. This is election we're talking about, and this is something that is in high spirit for every Nigerian, at least for the 3 states that we have on board, the Kogi, the Kogites, Imolites, and the Bayelsans. So please, don't wait for the military to use you as a scapegoat. It's not really a very pleasant experience. Don't be the scapegoat. Just avoid even coming. The worst is even coming in their own uniform, their camo. That would even really dare them the more. So there's nothing to add to this warning. It's crystal clear. Even without the warning, everybody already you love yourself, so stay out of trouble. That is just what we can add to this time around. And we hope that tomorrow is going to really be a wonderful. One other thing that actually it struck my mind about this this warning, this information coming at this time. I see a seeming better preparation in this election, because if you see how everything is turning out, we didn't really have this, pan out in the February, March elections. There wasn't this level of preparation, but this is actually for me trying to right the wrongs of what happened previously, and I hope that we won't, at the end of the day, in all of these preparations, in all of these warnings, in all of these, promises that we've had, even from INEC and all that, still have things not go well. So we expect all the security agencies, all the joint task force, everyone who is already scheduled to be part of this election to ensure that things go the right way, that they do the needful to the utmost of, the fate of what this upholds for every Nigerian.
Okay, we have another issue that I would like to quickly bring to the fore. Pan-Yoruba social political organization Afenifere says it is not happy with the rate of insecurity in some parts of the country as a result of the attacks by some armed headsmen on farmers. The group noted that the criminal activities of the bandits against farmers raised the need for the creation of state police to enhance proper security at the grassroots level. In a communique issued by the Secretary General of the Association, Chief Shola Ebiseni, Inakure said the communique was issued at the meeting of the group at the residence of its leader, Baayo Adebanjo, in Ijebu, Ogun State. Afenifere observed the alarming resurgence of insecurity occasioned by the activities of armed cattle herders terrorizing farmers, killing, maiming the people, and raping women, for which some of the host communities are no longer comfortable living with the killer guests. On true federalism, the group also called on the federal government to adopt the report of the 2014 confirm or the Nasir El-Rufai Committee on Federalism to restructure the country and change the 1999 constitution, adding that Nigeria is a federation of entrenched ethnic nationalities which has failed to evolve into a nation because of the deviation from the foundational principles of federalism, noting that except Nigeria is ruled based on true federalism, which guarantees inclusiveness, fairness, egalitarianism, justice, and a sense of belonging to all its constituent groups, it will remain a mere geographical expression with no sense of common nationalism and patriotism. Well, there are two key issues here. There's insecurity that has to do with herders and farmers that has gone on for so long, and then you have the issue of true federalism. All right, if you don't mind, maybe we'll start off from the issue of herders and farmers crisis over time. A very pertinent call by Afenifere, by the way, which other ethnic organizations, if you may, should also do well to begin to make. Here is the thing about this call. Every time you read the news and hear farmer killed, herders, this and that, you ask yourself, again, like I've always asked, why is it really difficult to get things done in this country? I understand there may be the knowledge on what to do, which I believe is not absent, but there is also the issue about the will to get it done. And now the will to get things done can be also traced to interests. If, for instance, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu owned a farm in his village and herders are terrorizing his farm, that by the time he comes in, maybe his staff comes in, every time he hears the news one person has been killed, they have murdered this, they've broken into his farm and all of that, probably it will get his attention. If the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Representatives own farm, or their relatives, their loved ones own farms where these herders access and terrorize, probably they would have found the will to ensure that this nightmare that the grassroots have had to live with for so long comes to an end. Bestseller. People have been murdered. People have been denied access to their farm. Sometimes when we talk about herders, you can come in with their cows or their bovines, whatever it is, they are training at the point to destroy someone's farmland. Sometimes people don't understand how sad, how deeply offensive that might be. I go back to my village. At least I was able to travel to the village and watch my grandmom once in a while during midterm breaks in secondary school, watch the farm processes and all of that. Again, one of the things I observe, I may not know it, and I'm not saying I know it, when it comes to local, the normal farming we do, not the mechanized farming. Even the mechanized farming is quite expensive for anyone to invest in that also. But this is what these people do. So when they cry out, I feel that a government that have a heart for the people, a government that understands the need to fight for the people should understand this. What do? The year is ending, for instance. By the beginning of the year, when it start rain, they'll start cutting the grasses. You know, like how they leave their farmland for 10 years, some places, and all the there's some years before they begin to go into farm in those places. So what they actually do is that they get into this farmland, they bring about they find a way to cut everybody takes their portion where they're supposed to be farming, and then they bring people to pay people to cut the big trees, the grasses, and all of that have been there for years, because they usually leave it so that the farmland will to produce better fruit and all of that. So from there on, they go into tilling the soil, forming the molds. First of all, remove the leftover of the grasses and trees that has been cut and all of that, and after that, shift it and do all the clearing of the grass again from the bottom up. It takes a lot of hard work. Some of them save so much to ensure that they pay people that can help them to do this, those who can afford it. Others do it themselves with their children and all of that. And sometimes they even pair themselves up. So, okay, we work in your farm today. Next time they will be for those who cannot afford it. They all group their children and communities. Okay, we'll do this and that. Just how they end up surviving. So after doing all of this, they leave from there. They now begin to till. Sometimes, like in my place, they call them Ndioguku. That's people, farmers with big hoe. They come in to use it to till the land. They're basically northerners. Now after that, they'll have to now start breaking, because that mold is very strong. After breaking it into little bits and pieces so that they can plant their cassava stem or corn or whatever it is, or yam they want to put inside. Now from there on, they will now have to, after sowing the seeds and all of that, another time you have to come back again when it begins to grow. As it's growing, it's coming up with some grasses and all of that. You now have to weed the first one. I think sometimes they weed up to 3 times, depends on where they are farming in that season. And after all of this, when these seedlings begins to grow, somebody brings his own cow from somewhere, invades this farm, eats up the... I don't know if they can understand that this is really sad. That every time you hear that people toiled so much, you're not providing the basic. I mean, some of this, I think that there is need to come back to the basic. What exactly needs to be done? If the government cannot provide security, because the vigilantes, how often can you really pay them? Those who live abroad pay them little money, stipends and all of that. Sometimes they don't even pay, so they are disbanded or they just begin to do their own thing. And again, what arm do these people have against these headers who have AK-47, wielding AK-47 and all forms of arms that they end up killing people with? So I don't know. This first part of the story is one that I wish couldn't come up again. But we also want to blow out on this to say before they become meal on our table. I mean, I don't know, but it just makes me really sad every time we come to this point.
Let me start from here. Each time this kind of news comes out, I always remember Bakassi.
Okay.
Yes, I remember Bakassi because Bakassi
in Abad in those days.
Yes, because I used to feel before Bakassi that there were no set of law enforcement in that local way, or community way that would have actually handled this kind of things that these headers, are actually perpetrating. Yes, because that's actually why they are calling for true federalism and the amendment of the 1999 Constitution. Because going the way things are happening, especially Benue has really suffered in the hands of these headers. You infiltrate their farms, you rape you abuse the children and all that, you rape the women and all that, and nobody is, it's like these people perpetrating these crimes are faceless. There's no face to these people. When you say they are Fulani headsmen, and that fact is actually denied. So I look forward. This might just be a little bit, kind of a digression from what we're talking about, but I wish in the sense of what Bakassi was for and what they did. I really pray that that kind of thing can come back again to actually face these headsmen that are perpetrating this kind of crimes, and because these headsmen that are perpetrating this kind of crimes, and because this actually borders on insecurity. Like we had to also point out there again, because there is no security. There's no security, and like you said, have we gotten to a point where community policing should actually be the order of the day? Because I don't know what the security agencies are actually doing about this. Like you said, it's only like when it borders on them, that's when you see them reacting, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that way. We have the security agencies to serve, even at the grassroots level, serve the citizens of the country. They are crying out loud. There's no room for anybody to infringe on the other person's right, in this regard and in this light. It's really inhuman, and I believe that the right porters are really hearing these cries and should definitely step up to do the needful.
Now, speaking of stepping up to do the needful, let's talk about true federalism. Whether it's coming from the 2014 confab or coming from the Nasser El-Rufai's committee, one thing is key. Growing up, at some point, growing up, my dad will always newspaper when he's around, there are newspapers, and then you are meant to read something, and then we discuss it and all of that. Now, after some time, when I go into secondary school, news, 9 p.m. news, and then NTA news was compulsory. So, in fact, by 9 p.m., 8:30, thereabout, the gate is locked, everybody's seated, except for someone who doesn't want, but it's like, for me, I like to sit down and watching the NTA news and all of that. And then sometimes you just hear him, even as some other adults, just hear him lamenting on issues of development and all of that. So I've always wondered what all of that meant until I was a science student. I didn't have to do government and all of that. But the River State, for instance, they have their natural resources. They make money from here. The money don't come to them. They return the money is sent to the federal government, who now determines what they will have. My consciousness growing up and I was talking about true federalism, or what federalism should be, resource control, like the first story we talked about, Diogonis and all of them. I have always wondered why this is okay. What made our forefathers agree to this kind of federalism? It still doesn't make sense to me. My father now determines how much I will get.
When you're the one doing the work.
That is how this whole thing comes to me. Because how do you even talk about development when I'm not saying that the 13% derivative that some of these Niger Delta state gets, that they've been able to defend it critically by providing a commensurate development or what have you by the government. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that you leave me with no form of responsibility Because what it means is that you provide me with electricity, you're giving me pocket money, basically. So when you give me pocket money, for instance, I don't control my security, I don't control my electricity. You do that, you understand? You give me, in fact, the house I'm going to live in, you that beauty. So I'm doing the work, but you're taking this, my salary, you determine what I get as pocket money at the end. So psychologically speaking, you could understand that the reason why there is a divide in national development, we're just talking about, the first part of their story talked about the issue of herders and farmers issue. Why some of these decisions are not being taken care of is because no responsibilities of actually is expected from these people. Because if, for instance, the governor of Rivers State, Simlaye Fubara, is allowed to control not just his IGR, but his natural resource funds coming from the crude resources, for instance. Now, every eye will be on Simlaye Fubara. But because there is the grandpa who is the head of the farm, you know, these Indian settings, kind of. Every eye is at the federal government, because that is where all the money goes to. So psychologically speaking, you discover that we don't even have enough consciousness that the government of Rivers State owe the natives or the residents some responsibility. It is the reason why we don't understand that our local government chairman, for instance, owe us some responsibility. Just take out of office to just run a system under another authority. So I have always questioned if what we actually practice is true federalism, because the call for resource control. Someone was talking about how Bayelsa has improved, and then when you talk about improvement, you talk about, please mention the number of quality primary health care. I learned that airport is not even in use. Now, let's not even go. It's not just Bayelsa. There are other states and all of that. So, if at the end of the day we want to talk about true federalism, we need to bring this conversation beyond even the 2014 CONFA, beyond the National RFI Committee. It's more about how do we change the consciousness we have? How do we create a better paradigm shift than what is permeating in our society today? You don't expect the governor to really answer to, because he gets a token from the federal government, who takes the rest of your salary, shares between amongst your younger ones who are not working so they can get something. How do you, now, this is my major problem, if, as a matter of fact, on this issue of a resource control issue, is that the grandpa who gets your salary and gives you what you have, or your dad, depends on who is at the head, gives you what they want. And what happens is that those who are giving part of your salary for their own upkeep, you are denying them the opportunity to become responsible like yourself, to be to have your own resources. The bottom line is you're taking part of their responsibility from them. That is why they will continue to depend on you. Look at states like Abia State. One thing that should be a major source of IGR in Abia State is palm. Palm. This was, growing up, when we go to villages in those days, you have all of this, everywhere. It was a major source of, from the red oil, as a palm oil, to the peels from the kernel itself, to the oil that comes from the kernel. These are major resources. From the fiber that comes from when you produce the palm. Because of our time, if I take time to dissect to you the number of resources that comes from palm alone, Abia State ought to be like, what does Malaysia live on? Do you understand? Abia State should be one of the richest states in this country. But how do you expect a governor who doesn't have the responsibility to develop his own natural resources to even understand in the first place that there are certain things he needs to do? There is no responsibility on him. He gets free money at the end of the month. So why would anyone begin to think of? So I don't think this is federalism or true federalism. Right. It denies everyone what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. And that's why we all look up to the grandpa, because federal government is the one that gets all the money. That is why sometimes we don't even remember Baba Tukwe. That's Andy. Honestly, I don't know, but that's just what I think about all of this until we come back to trying to do drugs. And I think that is why development in this country may still be far away from being a reality.
That's just it. We look forward to true federalism,
and we don't know when this is going to come. Apart from this, the 1999 Constitution is actually long overdue.
For total amendment.
Yes, for amendment, and I don't know how much this cry for true federalism, as it concerns even the amendment of the 1999 Constitution, will actually be put, into the action towards that will actually take place. I don't know how long it's going to happen, but this about the headers, Benue State, now Ogun.
It cuts across even to the southeastern states.
Yes, but
though there's a major fight is in Benue. I don't know, but we'll take a short break. Everyone will come back to you after the break.
Every day, our lives are changed by history,
We are one people, all of us.
leaders, politics,
Nobody's ambition is what the blood.
I have fought a very family.
natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
still on Atlantic Television Network Blowout, and we're going straight to the next conversation. As the world gets more advanced, the European Union and advocates SANS, Frontiers, France trained Nigeria judges and lawyers on digital rights, reflecting on protection mechanisms, online security tools, protection and promoting freedom of speech in the digital space. The training gives clear understanding on the European laws and identifying the principles and rationale behind international standards' way of protecting freedom of speech in the digital space. During the e-right training for judges and lawyers on digital rights in Abuja, in a speech by the Honorable Chief Judge of the Federal High Court of Nigeria, Honorable Justice John Temba Shoho, said safeguarding digital rights is a crucial component of the legal system in defending citizens' rights and freedom. The president of Avocats Sans Frontières France, Ivan Panef, said training is in accordance with the Nigeria Bar Association, and that it profiles solutions to laws, develops the rule of law, safeguards digital rights and freedom of the citizens. In an interview with country director Avocats Sans Frontières France, Angela Owandu, she gave the objectives and significance of the training. Here is the report.
It is crucial that our legal professionals and judiciary have the knowledge when it comes to interpreting the law, maintaining justice, and defending our citizens' rights and freedoms. The court is essential as we grapple with issues such as data privacy, online freedom of expression, and cyber security. This symposium comes at a pivotal moment in our history where the fusion of law and technology is altering the legal system. The Nigerian judiciary needs to move with the times to make sure that justice is not only technically or technologically savvy, but also unbiased.
You know, this kind of project concerning e-rights and digital law is relevant for all countries around the world currently. The law is in the phase of evolution very quick currently. Since 10 years all around the world, the most important legislation currently in EU is beginning to be prepared 2 years ago. And now, since several weeks, we have very important, the most important piece of legislation in the world to make a frame to control the digital rights. And we are very happy to work here with our colleagues in Nigeria because this question is very sensitive for the citizens to protect their rights, and it's important to apply the legislation because the legislation is existing in Nigeria, of course, as every piece of legislation it could be improved, but the most important and to apply it. And to apply it with the cooperation between judges and lawyers. That is why we cooperate now concerning these problems to find solutions together.
So we at Avocats Sans Frontières France, Lawyers Without Borders France, we are delighted to convene a capacity building session for lawyers and judges from Kano State, from the Federal High Court, judges from the Federal High Court in Kano, and also judges from the Kano State High Court to join with lawyers. We are providing training on digital rights and interfacing on issues around freedom of expression online, data privacy and data protection, issues around fake news, artificial intelligence. And the essence of this is to promote respect for digital rights in Nigeria. And we know that the legal community and judicial actors have a key role to play in terms of interpretation of policies and legislations around digital rights. So this is one of the efforts of the e-rights project, the Enhancing Digital Rights project, funded by the European Union and implemented by Avocats Sans Frontières France, in ensuring that our legal community is at breast with the developments in this fast-changing and fast-paced area of digital rights, digital technology. And we believe that there is so much potential with regards to technology and technological advancements, with regards to the contribution to digital economy, but also we are very well aware of the threats that online platforms and engagements present. So we believe that today's training would, at the end of the day, contribute to respect for digital rights. And we are also going to be providing legal assistance to victims of digital rights violations, and eventually we're bringing up a free legal assistance, we're bringing up cases before the courts on the area of digital rights, as well as carrying out strategic litigation to ensure that from the onset we have key interpretations, key precedents with regards to digital rights in the country.
All right, now talking about international support for legal backings in the Nigerian judiciary. Well, I don't know if that is where we should be right now. I'm not discontenting whatever was achieved in this. I'm not a lawyer. I mean, kudos, fantastic that this has been done. But I'm speaking as a Nigerian. Is this where we want to be right now? Okay, international support is good, but how does this translate to quality delivery in Nigeria's judiciary system? Is in partnership with the NBA, they have done this great. Again, how does this translate to quality delivery in our judiciary? One of the major challenges, or an eye-opener that a lot of persons have had, especially young persons in 2023, has to do with the impact of the judiciary or outcome of the 2023 general elections and the results from the judiciary, where you have one, the Beavers, for instance, worked for a governorship election, but it was discontinuous for the presidential election. And then you have rulings going one way on the same issue, going another way, institutions of government being eroded in the process of all of this, factors that should count in a moral decent society didn't count, in individuals who are in leadership, from the presidency to governors and the House of Representatives or National Assembly members and what have you. So the question then is, as applaudable as this, no knowledge is a waste. But for me as an individual, I want to have a judiciary, the NJC and the NBA and every other organ of government coming back to the drawing table and basically asking themselves, how did we fare in the 2023 election? Or how have we fared so far as a nation in the cause of justice? We have the Nnamdi Kanu situation, where Nnamdi Kanu, for instance, the appeal court has given a ruling to say, acquit this man. The Attorney General, then Malami, had to go back to for stay of execution, and up till now, how many months after, we're still going to and fro on this same matter. Not 2 years going into the third year, and all of this conversation is still on the table. No head, no tail, just in limbo. So for me, I honestly think that beyond the international support that always comes handy for us as a nation, I think the Nigerian judiciary and every organ that coordinates its activity really need to go back to the drawing board and begin to ask pertinent questions. Particularly for me, I think that one thing that should be on the fore right now is independence of the judiciary, because some of these judges or lawyers would actually want to do better if they had independence. From their appointment to their financing, I think that political offices, from the presidency to the governors, need to remove their hands in the judiciary. The judiciary needs to be empowered. We have seen all kinds of abuse, judiciary abuse this year, particularly the case of Emefiele. I told you that a judge signed warrant for Emefiele to be detained, taken from the DSS to Ikoyi Correctional Facility. That didn't happen. And several other rulings that judges have given several times, and it didn't happen. I think we've also come to, because the reputation, these judges also need to realize that their reputation is at stake. The name you have that is at the top today, this is the same name your own children will have. If they cannot, if those of us who are here today dealing with you cannot trust you, how do you think we can actually trust your offspring when we come across them? Your names are all out there. So I think, on a personal note, the judiciary, as an individual, they need to begin to push for a total reform, a total overhaul. If they need to push a bill to the National Assembly, sponsor a bill to the National Assembly, and make this an official call as much, and asking as Nigerian citizens to come on board to support them, I think it will go a long way. I do not know how I will appoint, if I'm a governor and I appoint a judge and I expect the judge not to do my bidding in a system that is as corrupt as ours, when nobody will hold me responsible, where there are no consequence management for any action that I carry because they've given me immunity clause, you know. I think all of the Nigerian judiciary, applaudable, I agree that advocates of frontiers have been able to do this right now, but I think that the Nigerian judiciary and everybody that coordinates its activities need to come back to the drawing table. If you need to depend on the citizenry to push this bill into the House and everyone supports, I think that Nigerian citizens are awake enough to understand this and call for this right now. Because until we get to the point where the Nigerian judiciary becomes totally independent to the point where their finances, are not controlled by whoever is in power, appointment of justices or judges of the Supreme Court or higher state court, chief judge is not controlled to look into that and ensure that what was needed was done immediately. I don't think you could get such expedited process in Nigeria today on such issue. I don't even think any judge would even want to consider that, because he or she could be sacked, be relegated to the background, thrown off to one corner that nobody even know that he or she exists. And of course, you can't work so hard from school to building a career and get to some point and comfortably watch yourself being thrown away. We could say, oh, God will do it, but again, God has given us the power to do some of these things. So for me, I think one conversation that should be at the fore is reform of the judiciary as quickly as possible, and it is the judges, the judiciary, the practitioners who can begin to push for this. And you better believe the Nigerian citizens will be well ready to ensure that they provide the needed support.
Before now, it's correct to say to an extent that the judiciary were actually independent, of themselves, as it concerns what they dish out as judgment and all that, and of their persons. But until things began to get to a point where, hands had to meet with hands and all that, yes, and it's somehow very difficult when big hands meet with the lower hand. Nations, like we saw in that news, I really wonder, what is the agenda, what they actually hope in all of this as they meet to achieve. Because after all these meetings, this is not the first time, this is not going to be the last time. Okay, so but at the end of the day, we actually hope to see something remarkable coming out of all these meetings, because up until now, nobody, the hope in the judiciary is actually totally lost. Yes, this is actually the state and the situation in the country. That's why this election coming tomorrow is really, it's supposed to be a healing. It's supposed to be a healing to all the citizens in the country. If all things work equal, all other things, being equal, we expect that, there should be a good turnout of the elections tomorrow to really go a long way. Don't you think so?
Is it with INEC telling you that using the IREV or is it beavers for collision is illegal? Anyway, let's get to our next story. Let's not get ourselves worked up with all of that. House of Representatives Committee on Inland Waterways has assured that it will use legislation and oversight activities to address the root causes of boat mishap in the country. Chairman of the House Committee, Honorable Ojema Ojotu, gave the assurance in his remarks at the inaugural session with members of the committee. According to the chairman, the meeting is to signal the official take-off of the committee in the 10th National Assembly, adding that there are several reports of deaths resulting from boat mishaps in the country, and assured that through effective oversight of the relevant agencies of government, adequate legislations, it would be tackled by the committee holistically. Ojotu further stated that the House Committee is to oversight the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy and its parastatals, except those under the jurisdiction of the other committees, the Inland Waterways, the National Inland Waterways Authority, and the budget. The Chairman House Committee on FCT, Mukhtar Betara, who spoke also who also spoke during an inaugural meeting of the House Committee, called on the Minister of FCT Wike to pay attention to the security of lives and property in the nation's capital, and also urged the former Rivers State Governor to commit his energy, experience, and network to improve on revenue generation to fund the infrastructural development of the FCT. But while urging members to dedicate their time and energy to the realization of the renewed hope agenda of the President Bola Tinubu, that the committee could not afford to fail FCT natives and residents in the task entrusted to them. Speaking on behalf of the Minister of FCT, Wike, the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Mr. Adeshola Olushade, thanked the committee for their commitment to assist in the development of the Capital Territory. He also enjoined them to work assiduously on bills pending before them concerning the development and the congestion of the capital city. Here is the report.
We begin to give attention to issue of the incessant accident in our waterways. We make it we will declare state of emergency. While I'm a little bit very reluctant about it, we have new ND. And if we begin to make a lot of noise around it, it appears as if, when this thing was happening, we were quiet. But the good thing is that we must give it time, and we must ensure that in a short while from now, whatever that is responsible for those things, we will deal with them. And the story that we'll be hearing from our waterways will be marine transport will become a different story entirely. And of course we must also ensure that we interact with other countries, other African countries. We have Africa Bank and all that. They benefit from what happened, the connection, interconnection, and all of that. So they will also be able to see how they can support us. We learn from their story. Those of them who are doing very well, we'll see how we can get connected to them, and then we'll see how we can improve.
The budget of the FCT, federal government gives FCT less than 20 billion in the budget. So most of this budget are statutory budgets. So we need money to run FCT. We are planning maybe by 2024 statutory budget. I told PAMSEC we should think of 1 trillion and above. Yes, because we have it. There are ways to raise these monies. We have a serious minister that wants to work. Sometimes a lot of people do not understand when the FCT minister is working. If you sit with him, you talk with him, you're like, he knows he's a serious person. So I'm pleading with this committee, please, we should support the FCT. For us, we should support the FCT for us to get more revenues next year, so that the 10th National Assembly will leave legacy on ground.
The flight of the AICN, it is one of the reform initiatives of the Honorable Minister to address the revenue generation capacity of this agency, particularly their governance structure. And that is what informed on his assumption of office to remove the headship in order to pave the way for unfettered review and appointment of headship that will be able to fulfill the objectives. We pay great attention to the security challenge, and that is why we are implementing efforts that will address this. Why the problem of one chance is still there and other security measures, but if you recall, in few weeks now, there has been substantial decline in this. The police are implementing various measures and arrests are being made. And by now, within 1 or 2 weeks, no arrest is made because they have seen that they have to leave Abuja. So the incidence of having a vehicle carrying 2 plate number is now very rare in the FC.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I've just been wondering, the National Assembly, they're really doing a lot this time. Yeah, they're doing a lot. But my concern now is the issue of the oversight activities that they intend to actually curbing the boat accidents and all that. I don't know how you see that.
Okay, first of all, I think I respect and appreciate that the National Assembly the 10th Assembly, House of Representatives, are taking this really seriously. I'm really happy because I'm not going to lie to you. Every time I hear of these boat accidents, in the north, I know boats capsize, kills people, whether they are coming back from wedding activity and all of that. It hurts, it breaks my heart a lot. And I always wondered. I thought sometimes I just avoid that conversation because I know it's going to make me very emotional. But having the assembly now pick this up as a responsibility, I appreciate it so much. And I hope that it's not going to end from just talking about it in committee, but going beyond, getting the blue economy and the marine economy to the ministry, to come on board, to look into that they actually go to these jetties, get down there, investigate what is actually causing this consistent. Is it poor boats, the state of poor state of the boats? Is it lack of proper professionals manning the boats? Because you hear overload. Is it lack of boats, like not having enough? If that is the case, I believe that this should not be one of the super expensive things that you cannot even buy as a state, to ensure that if that is one of the major sources of transportation for the people, that you ensure that they have a proper boat. Come on, this is 2023. Do you know the number of boats accidents, the number of people who've lost in boat accidents alone? So if this can, like you said, this can be up there, and the level of commitment they are showing also shows that when the lead is right, a lot of things can right. But let it not end from here. Now the committee like they have said, send forth emissaries, let them get down there, get to complete comprehensive reports. It's not a big deal. Let them get to this point. So I think it's rocket science to figure this out. So I'm now beginning to have proper. This is our findings. What is your findings? What is responsible? If they are lacking anything in terms of boats, in terms of professionals, the drivers need some form of ensure that proper safety measures are put in place before people begin to access the boats. I don't know how we can continue to talk about the need to be detailed, to pay attention to details in dealing with national development. These things are not rocket science. Even if it's your private business, you can do it. But because there's usually no consequence management, again, people they get away with some of these things. So we hope that now that they've begun, the process is not going to end here, that something fantastic comes out of this. Between next year, we can hear that, oh, it's true. We talked about this last year, but now there's no boat mishap anymore. I mean, I would believe in them.
The registration of subsidiary companies under the Nigerian Postal Service. Chairman of the committee, Honorable James Abiodun Falake, representing APC, Lagos State, issued a query when the Ministry of Finance, Incorporated, alongside other agencies, appeared before the committee for an interactive session on the 2024 to 2026 Medium-Term Expenditures Framework, FSP. Speaking during the session of Falake, noted that the reason why that was so, companies, namely NIPOST Property Company Limited and NIPOST Logistics, were done with individuals as shareholders. Falake also raised issues over the approval and withdrawals of 10 billion naira for the purpose of the registration of the subsidiary companies. In his response, the Chief Executive Officer of MOFI, Dr. of the committee, is a need to address the issues. Earlier in his opening remarks, Honorable Falake stated that the federal government must not accept laxity on the part of any agency or representative acting on its behalf in signing deals that affect the country, and also emphasized that the interactive session with the agencies and stakeholders on government finances is to ensure the passage of the MTEF FSP before the presentation of the 2024 annual budget. Here is the report.
As it is by law, they are the owner of this company, and they are the owner of all assets of NIPOST by law. Are you lawyers? That's what I understand. I also have another one, which NIPOST Logistics or something like that, also registered in personal names. So I want to know from you, did you give permission to CAC to register your assets in personal name, Nigerian assets? Because what I can see here is that even some of them, they were working as civil servants when this was registered. Well, some of them, they were civil servants, and some have retired. But as it is by law, they are the owners of NIPOS Properties and NIPOS Transport Limited. Can you please confirm what's responsible for this? And if you want to create a subsidiary, should the subsidiary come in personal names of individuals not known to, who never made contributions to the assets?
The question you raised is precisely why I did say earlier on in my remarks that there is an opportunity for this committee to really partner with us to regularize a lot of the irregularities that exist and persist in our system. That is just one example. There are many other examples where such anomalies exist and have persisted for many years. The simple answer to your question, Honorable Chairman, is that the answer is no. When you register an entity, especially a federal government-owned entity, the shareholder must be MOFI. As dated as the MOFI Act is, the very fundamental basis for that act talked about easements and rights. And so anything that federal government owns or shares in, it should have been registered under MOFI.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but again, like we just said in the previous conversation, this is about the NIPOS. A lot of us are not even aware that NIPOS is still in existence. But now, well, this could be the reason people have turned it into their private business. But I'm glad that Honorable James Falake and his committee are demanding for accountability. This is what leadership should be. I believe this is what in fact, I think we should begin to give more praise to this 10th Assembly, the House of Rep particularly, so that they can, do more. So they know we respect what they are doing, and maybe that will now be a source of encouragement for them to say, I mean, who would have known that there is a NIPOS that people, the logistics is registered in an individual's name, and then the main company, exactly. And now he's demanding who approved this in the CAC and all of